Limiting beliefs and patterns are held in place by core wounds. Limiting beliefs keep you stuck, for sure. And I'm also here to tell you, I hope, a story that will help you to feel freed and not so disempowered, because I want you to know that your limiting beliefs and repeating patterns are also showing you what a powerful manifester you are. That's the happy ending to the story I'm telling you today. Now, in this video, I'm going to continue in my series talking about some personal stories. And in this one, a repeating pattern of being in a narcissistic, abusive relationship and how all of this led me to ascension. That is what I'm going to be sharing with you today. I'm also going to teach you some specific tools and techniques to connect with your own ascension path. So I hope you stay tuned. Narcissism. Now, it should be noted right up front that I'm using the word narcissism loosely. I often say narcissistic strategies because narcissism is a spectrum, and let's be clear, I am not diagnosing anyone with narcissistic personality disorder because neither am I qualified to do that because I'm not a licensed psychologist or psychiatrist. But even if I were, I haven't examined them in a clinical setting. Like, it's not okay to just, use that. But I'm not using the clinical term. I'm talking about the strategies that were involved in a relationship that I was in. At the same time, I am calling myself the codependent in those relationships. And this is something that I want us to, again, focus on in this, is that I'm not speaking of my victimhood. I'm speaking of my hero's journey. And in my victimhood, I made myself the victim in the fact that I am an adult, and the patterns and the limiting beliefs that were in place to have me give myself that I was unconscious to them. So in the previous video, I was sharing about how those patterns started in childhood. Now I'm going to talk to you about how they continued in my adult life. Now, here's the thing. Narcissism is in a relationship, we do think of the dynamic as an abuser and a victim of abuse. And of course, on many obvious levels, that's the case. And of course, if we are talking about the victim being either a child or a care-dependent adult person, then 100% this is a dynamic of an abuser and a victim, because the care-dependent adult and or child cannot defend themselves, cannot do anything. But I'm talking about being an adult and opting into a relationship where I held the role of a person who would receive such strategies that were toxic. And I'm going to be honest too, my strategies of being a codependent are also toxic. So while there was an overt kind of behavior that was coming at me, I received it and I created the receptacle for it. Here's the thing. All participants in the relationship of narcissistic abuse, if they are adult, they are self-reliant. And the good news is that while I was in a period of victimhood, there are so many options to empower and free yourself. That is what I'm focusing on here. To do that, I'm going to tell some personal stories of a covert narcissistic strategizing person, that territory that I was in at the time. So this is a spiritual channel, and of course, this story is about spiritual awakening and the ascension path of light. So I will be discussing the metaphysical mechanics involved in narcissism and codependency. I hope that actually brings some depth to the experience for you. So this is the second part of the series, as I said. We're going to be talking about both the mystical and mundane fashions of the way that these experiences occurred. This story continues from the last one. We are zooming forward to 2017, when I began a business relationship that duplicated the oppression that I experienced in the first 18 years of my life. And that's where we're heading into today. Let's just go back a little before 2017 and 2014. I had a spiritual awakening. At this point, I awakened to my psychic abilities, my intuitive abilities. I had a metaphysical awakening. Even though they had always been online, they came present to me as something that I was excited to actually cultivate as skills. Always had fantastical experiences. I just didn't know, that they were fantastical, and I didn't know that other people weren't having those experiences. And I also I didn't know I could use them in life, if you know what I mean. So that happened in 2014. I subsequently started to get really excited and voracious to consume education and to practice my intuitive abilities, to where even though I had a career that I at that time was really happy with, I just found myself wanting to do this spiritual thing and I wanted to do it full time. So I had to start a business. And it wasn't for a while. There were a few years where I was kind of doing both, and I didn't think I wanted to leave my other job, but then I did want to leave my other career. Whole other story. In that career, of course, it was like a corporate world. So, of course, there's going to be some narcissism. Actually, I was in a sales position too. So definitely narcissism with salespeople, sales VIPs, I should say. Anyway, and please, no offense. I don't mean, if you're in sales, I don't mean you're a narcissist. Please do not take my words too literally. By the time we get to 2017, I had my career going for about a year and a half. Still my old job, though. I wasn't full-time. I was building it. I was in a codependent relationship with my previous job, so I was already kind of poised for it. Also, I'd started my podcast in 2016. Now, so along the lines here in 2016 to 17, like late 16, early 17, I can't remember, I met this person. And it really started off, this person who had become, it would become a business partnership. And there was all kinds of love bombing. And what's interesting is that the love bombing strategy for a narcissist can look like a lot of different things. So let's pause for a moment. In case you've never heard the word love bombing, if it's a romantic relationship, love bombing tends to be like, you're so amazing, you're just perfect. And then also the love bombing starts to turn to, only I could see how great you are. No one else can even see how amazing and perfect and wonderful you are. And I think that that's just like an exaggerated version of it. It can also just be safety and affection. It can just be like a really, really great behavior that you would expect. So I don't want any person who has been in a narcissistic romantic relationship situation to think that when we say love bombing, it's not just like overcompensating for your ego, saying you're perfect. Although that is sometimes what some narcissistic strategies will employ, is perfection about the other person. Now, in this situation here, because we were starting to work together, the love bombing looked like, well, it was like friendship, and the friendship was kind of pushed really fast. That's another thing that can happen in love bombing. It's like kind of going, oh, let's move faster and further in this relationship. The other thing is that in the business, because it was a business-based relationship, this other person did a lot of great business. They were doing work. They were actually being a partner. And so at any rate, talking about how the pattern was continuing, in the previous video, I talked about my home life between the ages of 13 and 18. And in that period, I was hidden away. I wasn't allowed to have joy or expression or happiness because of the person that my mother was married to, just wanted me to be unhappy. Anytime I was around was criticizing me, really like mentally torturing me, emotionally torturing me, just like criticizing me, making fun of me, cutting me down, just really being, just really rude and mean to me all the time. That was, of course, done inside the home. And then when I got to school, I had this kind of opportunity to be free and express myself in theater and be good in my English classes and everything. And my mom knew about that, but she knew that we had to hide that, because if this other person, her husband, found out that I was happy at all, he would have prohibited it. And my mother didn't have any power to say, no, she's going to continue to be in theater. She just, had to obey it. So we hid the fact. So it was like, my expression, I had this great outlet for expression. Hello, my podcast, my video right now. And in modern times of 2017. But then there was also this behind the scenes of criticism and ridicule. So that was going on in this modern relationship of 2017. Now, it didn't start right away, but it did. And it was like there's this pattern that was like, you can't be fully yourself, and I'm going to criticize you or sabotage. Again, that's what That's what my mother's husband would have done. He would have sabotaged anything that had me feeling too expressed. It's kind of like I couldn't get too big for my britches because I just needed to be, I couldn't have, my self-worth had to be chipped away. And so with this adult person in this adult relationship, this was happening. And again, happening behind closed doors. No one really saw it. Now, who did see it were my friends, like my husband, and then like other close friends who weren't involved in that relationship at all. It was kind of like, again, like when I lived in my home as at 13 to 18, at home one thing happened, at school a different thing happened. And if I told my best friend about what was going on at home, she would be like, oh my God, that's terrible. And literally my friends would be like, that's terrible. I can't believe that happens. This same thing was happening. This is a pattern. I had the situation around this relationship. No one could see what was happening when no one else was around. But if I talked to my husband or a friend that was outside of the situation of the relationship, they would be like, why are you letting this person, speak to you this way, create this kind of this painful way of being. Somehow when the love bombing stopped, it was that I was the one holding everything. I was the one doing everything. And I was criticized and ridiculed, so I couldn't get too confident. I want to take a pause away from that and talk now about the mechanics, the spiritual or metaphysical mechanics of narcissism and codependency. And that is that both the narcissist and the codependent are highly intuitive, very intuitive. And actually, I would like to, instead of intuitive, call it instinctive, because both are operating from this primal fear, this sense of instinct and primal fear. Both are tapping into the subtleties of the vulnerabilities. The codependent, often a codependent is someone who is highly empathic, because a highly empathic person, an empath, has already been feeling into all of the subtle energies to see how they could stay safe. And so that's how codependents tend to be empaths. Not always, but that's, empaths who have had some, abuse or broken past, or just like life, because life do that. And so they're tapping in, the codependent's tapping in and feeling like, oh, I have to hurry up and do all of the things to make sure that I don't get in trouble by this other person. And the narcissistic strategies are also highly intuitive. Like they're very clever, very cunning and clever and insidious, and knows how to turn things all the time, just a little bit. But I gotta say, yes, it's very manipulative, but so is the codependent. It's also a very manipulative frequency. So again, I'm trying to make myself equal in this relationship. So all of those subtle vulnerabilities that the narcissistic strategies are able to sense and exploit, to where even maybe the codependent isn't aware of them themselves, That's what's going on. Back to the time period when I was in this relationship, I had a lot of expansion. And looking back, the evolution and the work and the development, I did all on my own. And what I want to emphasize, as I did in the last video, is that there was a point, probably about a year or so into this relationship, that I first saw I'm being codependent. Damn it. I saw that first. And then it probably took me a little longer to go, wait, I think this is abuse. I think this is emotional abuse, to speak to me and to criticize me this much. And then also to abandon me and pretend like, oh no, I didn't know that you wanted me to do that, and change the narrative all the time. Those kinds of things were going on, which is gaslighting. When someone just changes the narrative on you, it forgets, has selective memory, or just says, just changes the narrative. All of that that took me a little longer to catch on to, but I didn't start my exit yet. I didn't have I thought that I had to do something more to fix it. And so what I want to say is, if you find yourself right now in a toxic situation or relationship, the time to begin the exit is now. Imagine if you were in a room that was filling with carbon monoxide. You wouldn't hang out for a few minutes thinking, maybe the carbon monoxide will not be so poisonous if I just hang out for a little longer. No, you start to you start to find your way out of that room. Now, there might be a few steps to take, or you might have to break a window open. but you start your exit now. Now, having said that, when I chose to start this exit, it did take me 6 months to complete it. And then it took me a year or something like that to really find this point of clarity that I'm at now. Maybe it was longer. I'm not sure. But I would say definitely I went and looked at it 6 months from the time my heart said I am exiting. It took me 6 months. And so if you are in a toxic situation, the time to begin to leave is now. In the same way, ascension is now. All right? Because even though love, spirit, magic can make anything that was wrong the right thing to happen as you stand in your healing. It is not limited by time or space. All of this is covered and healed and is now just made into the gold, and I'm reaping the value of it. But I did not need it to come to this place either. You see, it doesn't justify, the end doesn't justify the means. I found myself when I finally broke free of the pattern and found some clarity and healing, I was like, oh my gosh, the things that I was developing and downloading and channeling in 2017, 2018, that's the stuff, you know what I mean? Like, it's still the stuff, and it's what I am still bringing through. But in the meantime, for those periods, I had a vampire. And I highlight this to just say that there is no reason to wait. Even if you need to get yourself secure, it's not always appropriate to just quit today, your job or something, because you have to pay your bills and feed your children. But start in your heart right now. And there are other times when I left the career before the career last, and when I decided to leave that. I was working as a bartender and bar manager, and there was a point where I was like, you know what? I'm ready to move on, and that's okay. And I'm going to. This was what happened in my career in hospitality. I'm ready to move on, and that's okay. I'm going to go to work today, and I'm just going to focus on being kind to people because that will help me, and obviously I think it'll help others. 4 months later, I had I don't know, quintupled my income. Never imagined that I could have done, and stepped into a new career, which I again loved for many, many years. That was highly creative and really fun, a little fancy too, really fun. And then I transitioned out of it because it was time for something new. Changing the engagement in the toxic situation in your heart and then making your exit. That time is now. All of these wonderful things absolutely did happen. And while I was in that partnership, when I was in that relationship, from the vantage that I have now, all of those wonderful things were, in fact, despite what I was tolerating. And the paradox is that in believing the lie that I am not worthy, that all of the things I was ridiculed and criticized about, and believing the lie that the wonderful things were happening because of what I tolerated, that's the paradox. The wonderful things weren't happening because of what I was tolerating. They were happening despite it. And I didn't need it. It didn't need to come from that. That was my broken self-identity. Now, here's the thing that I haven't quite shared, and that is that I have been protecting the identities of both my mother's husband, who I talk about in the previous video, and I'm still protecting. I'm not divulging the identity of this person I'm talking about today, but I have been really working hard to keep my story under wraps because I thought I needed to protect their identities, including my mother's husband. I only tell some of those details because I think like, well, it's not nice, or I don't want to hurt my mom's feelings. But you know what? It's my story. And the more that I protect their identities, I actually subvert my own. And that's my intention here today, is to be fully me. The next part of the story is going to pick up in 2019. And this was when I had my full-time entrepreneurship, and there was still this vampiric narcissistic strategy, so to speak, and it actually did drain me so that I hit rock bottom. Now, that's going to be the next video. I want to invite you to like, subscribe, comment, and share. And please comment. Now, I'm about to give you the tools and techniques section so that you can move on your ascension path. These are tools and techniques that I use now and also use all throughout these becomings that I'm talking about. They will help you to open your intuitive abilities, your intuition for your life, your manifestation powers and prowess. And also, please do check in the description for the courses that I am running, the one-on-one opportunities that I have. I do individual coaching and mentoring, and I have quantum resonance intuitive development courses to help you to step into your spiritual mission as a leader, a spiritual leader, and to help you to feel that amazing expansion, how powerful you are as a manifester. So that's what I want to tell you before I move to the tools and techniques session. As I started this video, I said your limiting beliefs and repeating patterns are actually showing you that you are a powerful manifester. Because you know why? I'm holding it in place. I'm holding my limiting belief in place. Even though I'm unconscious about it, I'm holding it in place and I am manifesting from it. So it's really just trying to show you that it is as you wish, as you design your life. That is something that I want us to reframe limiting beliefs and patterns, that they're actually showing us how powerful we are as manifestors and how we can absolutely do anything. We can create anything. And in our heart's desire, that which we sense as the anything, the dream, the exciting thing, it's already in the universe because it is in your heart. So now let's get into some tools and techniques to help you move swiftly on your ascension path. Daily meditation. Some people feel like they aren't very good at meditation. They don't know how to meditate. That is normal. Just as if you haven't run a marathon before or you haven't lifted weights, when you first do it, you feel weak and awkward. You're first learning a dance movement, and you have to take it really slowly. And you're like, this isn't flowing. This ain't dancing, Sally. Not yet. It is normal. It is typical. And the more that you stick with it, it always counts. Now, the reason that daily meditation is so important is because it is your touch point with spirit. If you want to see it that way, it is, absolutely. It is also your touch point with your own essence, and you need to be in touch with your own essence. Now, not just daily meditation, but moving it more, going deeper and deeper. Are you cutting your meditation too short? Is your ego hijacking your meditation practice? And what I mean by that is that sometimes ego gets in there and wants to control exactly how something is done. So we need, honestly, our ego really tries to hijack our spiritual experiences. Anytime we have something going for a while, our ego is going to get in there and say, yep, got it. This is mine now. I'm going to do this, and we're going to not move forward anymore because we need things to stay the same. Use any free resource you can. It is the way. If you aren't actively moving that forward, then you're going to hit like a downward spiral. And I mean a growth mindset. And that's something we're going to talk. I got this voice from spirit in 2023 that told me that. That's going to be like the third or fourth video. I can't remember. What we can do with this is we can open portals in the cosmos every single day. We can heal and upgrade our DNA. We can actually take ourselves through a whole 7-year learning process in one 22-minute meditation. Every day we can do. We really can. This is what has made it so that not only I survived, because by the way, when I was a young person, when I was a kid going through all of that abuse, 13 to 18, I was going to church as much as I could, allow, as I could get out of the house to do it. And I had a prayer practice, and also I did the light language. We called it speaking in tongues, and that was all meditation. And actually, as meditation, prayer, self-hypnosis. There are so many free resources of guide tracks that can help you to expand and take you deeper. I'm going to link below that I actually have a YouTube playlist that's meditations and hypno journeys. And being in programs where we're expanding it, like my programs, meditation and hypnotic journeys and activations and trance activations, that's the cornerstone of everything that we do in order to have touch with our intuition and to open our intuitive abilities. It is all done in an altered state. So check that below and start something new today. If you're already a habitual daily meditator, Maybe I wonder. I mean, of course, I don't know you, but I wonder, is there some way you can advance it? Is there something really like cosmic that you can do tomorrow? Can you go a little bit longer? Can you do a self-guided instead of something that is guided by an audio track? Or maybe it's not a vocal audio track guidance, but it's just a binaural beat track. Or is it altering yourself by doing some chant first and then sitting in that energy and then playing with the visions that are coming forth, talking to spirit creatively, actively, and creating your reality that you choose? Because again, as I said, our limiting beliefs and repeating patterns are showing us that we are powerful manifestors because we put those on autopilot. Let's put ourselves in the pilot seat and rework all of these scripts. Reform the limiting beliefs. Let them be conscious to you. Create the reality that is stamped on your heart by your soul. So daily meditation. That is the way that I have survived. This is the way that I have awakened, advanced on that ascension path of light. And your soul is calling you forward. The angels are there calling you forward. And you deserve it. You deserve it. Oh my goodness, when someone says, I don't have time to meditate, what is that phrase? If you should meditate every day, unless you don't have time, then you should meditate twice a day or something like that funny thing. It's true. When we say I don't have time, now we've made time our master. We've chosen the belief that time is in charge of me. So I hope that you can feel free to be able to be in touch with your very soul essence. And you know what? The angels want to chat with you. If you want to have kind of like a rundown of what's going on in these video series, then subscribe to my newsletter. There is a link in the description, and you'll probably be able to, there's like a free meditation download. There are free mini courses like my free animal communication. It's actually animal intuitive course. That free mini course is below, and it will give you access to those amazing resources, by the way, for free. But it will sign you up for my newsletter because I'm actually making these into articles, and that's the best way to know when any of the things are happening. Often when I'm doing any kind of a special or like an early bird price on a course or program, I only release it on my newsletter. That's what I have for you today. I hope this helped you to feel how powerful you are as a manifester, and I just so appreciate you for shining your light on our beautiful world. Thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned for the next video where we pick up in 2019 of my ascension path and your ascension path, because the ascension is now. I love you, whoever you are.